The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened, with a sound like thunder rolling across mountains. Ambassador Elena Torres stepped through the entrance, her simple black diplomatic uniform stark against the rainbow of colors that filled the enormous space ahead of her. The chamber stretched upward for what seemed like miles, its crystalline walls pulsing with veins of light that carried information between the hundreds of species gathered here. Elena had seen pictures of this place, but nothing had prepared her for the reality. Floating platforms held delegates from worlds she had only read about in classified reports. The hegemony's massive reptilian forms dominated the highest tier, their scales glinting like armor in the chamber's strange light. Below them, the insectoid collective buzzed in perfect harmony, their compound eyes reflecting the data streams that flowed along the walls. The ethereal void-touched flickered in and out of visible spectrum, their forms shifting between dimensions as they observed the proceedings. 700 alien eyes turned toward the lone human as she walked across the polished floor toward the center of the chamber. Her footsteps echoed in the sudden silence, each step measured and confident despite the weight of attention pressing down on her. This was the first time in 47 years that a human had stood in this sacred space. At the center of the chamber sat the defendant's circle, a raised platform surrounded by an energy field that hummed with barely contained power. Elena knew that field could disintegrate entire starships if activated at full strength. Today it was set to contain one human diplomat. She stepped into the circle without hesitation, feeling the energy field close around her like a cage of light. "You stand accused," rumbled Overlord Vash from his throne high above, his voice shaking the chamber floor, "of existing in violation of Galactic Law 2847. Your species was prohibited from leaving your solar system 47 years ago. Yet here you are standing before this council in direct defiance of our decree." Elena looked up at the massive alien leader, noting how his claws gripped the armrests of his throne. Fear. Even the most powerful being in known space was afraid of one unarmed human woman. The thought should have been amusing, but Elena found it deeply troubling instead. "Honorable Overlord," she replied, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic enhancement systems, "I believe there has been a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of that prohibition." A ripple of what might have been nervous laughter came from the Catherian delegation. Their crystalline forms chimed against each other in harmonics that spoke of anxiety. Elena recognized the sound from her briefings. The Catherians were among the most intelligent species in known space, and they were clearly uncomfortable with her presence here. "The prohibition was absolute," hissed Counselor Nethys through her translation device, the serpentine alien's hood flaring with agitation. "No human vessel beyond your moon. No human communication beyond your system. No human influence beyond your world. These terms were clearly stated and acknowledged by your planet's leadership." Elena nodded thoughtfully, clasping her hands behind her back in a gesture that looked respectful, but allowed her to access the small device hidden in her sleeve. "Yes, I have read the original documentation. Quite thorough work, actually, though I notice it was filed under preventive containment protocol, rather than punishment for criminal activity. That distinction suggests you were trying to contain something specific." The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop several degrees. Elena continued speaking before any council member could object to her observation. "The question that brings me here today is not whether humans have violated your prohibition. The question is whether this council truly understood what it was attempting to contain when that law was written." She gestured toward the massive viewing screen that dominated the far wall of the chamber, a technological marvel capable of displaying real-time images from anywhere in council space. "With the council's permission, I would like to show you exactly what happened when 3 of your enforcement fleets attempted to maintain that prohibition over the past several months." Overlord Vash shifted his massive bulk, the movement causing several smaller council members to step back instinctively. "Impossible. We have received no reports of human contact with any enforcement fleets. Our protocols require immediate notification of any prohibited species encounter." Elena's expression remained perfectly neutral, but something in her eyes made the chamber's environmental systems work harder to process the sudden surge of stress pheromones from multiple species. That assumption raises some very interesting questions about the reliability of your communication networks. "Overlord," Counselor Reth of the Technical Collective spoke up, his metallic voice carrying the certainty of absolute technological superiority. Our fleets are equipped with quantum encrypted communication arrays. Any engagement with prohibited species would trigger automatic distress protocols and emergency data transmission to Council headquarters. No force in known space has the capability to prevent these systems from functioning. Elena's smile was small, polite, and somehow more terrifying than any threat could have been. That is exactly what I was hoping someone would say. The viewing screen flickered to life, displaying the Council's official seal. Elena reached into her jacket and withdrew a small data crystal, holding it up so the entire chamber could see it clearly. The simple gesture caused every security system in the building to activate simultaneously, scanners and weapon systems focusing on the tiny device. This contains recorded transmissions from 3 separate enforcement fleets, Elena announced. Fleet Gamma under Commander Jaktor, the 2nd Fleet under Admiral Korvax, and the 3rd Fleet under War Marshal Thane himself. Each recording was obtained through your own ship's communication systems using your own encryption protocols. The council chamber erupted in confused voices from dozens of different species. Several delegates were speaking rapidly into their own communication devices, presumably trying to verify Elena's claims. Others were backing away from their positions, as if distance could protect them from whatever revelation was coming. Elena waited patiently for the chaos to subside, her calm presence somehow more unnerving than the panic surrounding her. When relative quiet returned, she continued speaking in the same conversational tone. Before we begin viewing these recordings, I want to establish something very important for the official record. Humans have never violated the prohibition against leaving our solar system, not once in 47 years. Every human currently alive was born on Earth or in Earth's orbital facilities. No human-built vessel has traveled beyond Luna's orbit. No human transmission has been detected outside our star system. She paused, letting those words settle into the minds of 700 of the galaxy's most powerful beings. However, the prohibition was written under certain assumptions about human capabilities and limitations, assumptions that may have been incomplete. Elena inserted the data crystal into the chamber's primary input terminal. The viewing screen immediately displayed a timestamp from 3 months ago and the sleek formation of Council enforcement, Fleet Gamma as it approached the edge of the Sol system. Let us begin with Fleet Gamma's encounter with 3 human civilians conducting atmospheric research near Jupiter. As the recording began to play, Elena noticed something that would have been invisible to non-human observers. The way certain council members were positioned, the micro-expressions on faces that possessed them, the subtle changes in posture and breathing patterns. Someone in this chamber already knew what these recordings would show. The question was whether they knew because they had been briefed on failed operations, or because they had been expecting this moment to arrive. Either way, Elena thought as she watched the first few seconds of Fleet Gamma's approach, the next few minutes were going to change everything. The viewing screen filled with the image of Fleet Gamma moving through space in perfect formation. 12 heavy cruisers and their escort vessels approached the outer edge of the Sol system with the confidence of a force that had never encountered meaningful resistance. The ships gleamed in the starlight, their hull markings clearly identifying them as Council Enforcement Division. Elena stood quietly in her containment field, watching the council members as they observed their own fleet on the screen. Most looked confused, trying to understand why they were seeing footage of a routine patrol operation. A few, however, looked distinctly uncomfortable. Fleet Commander Jaktor was given very specific orders, Elena said, her voice carrying easily through the chamber's acoustics. Intercept and destroy any human vessels found outside Earth's immediate orbital space. The use of overwhelming force was pre-authorized to ensure complete compliance with the prohibition. On screen, the fleet's sensors detected a small craft drifting near Jupiter's orbit. The vessel appeared to be conducting some kind of scientific survey. Its instruments pointed toward the gas giant's swirling atmosphere. The ship was barely larger than a shuttle and showed no weapon signatures or defensive capabilities. The vessel contained 3 human civilians, Elena continued, her tone remaining conversational despite the gravity of what she was describing. Dr. Lisa Park, a quantum communication specialist, Dr. Marcus Webb, an atmospheric physicist, and Dr. Yuki Tanaka, who was studying Jupiter's magnetic field interactions. They were completely unarmed and had no idea they were about to become part of galactic history. Fleet Commander Jaktor's voice boomed through the chamber's speakers as the recording continued. Unknown human vessel. You are in violation of Galactic Law 2847. Power down your engines and prepare to be destroyed. You have 30 seconds to comply. The human response came immediately, but it was not what anyone in the council chamber expected to hear. "Commander Jacktor," said a calm female voice that could only belong to Dr. Park, "we are currently broadcasting on your private command frequency. The one that theoretically only you and your executive officer have access to. We are also transmitting on the personal communication channels of every crew member in your fleet. All 47,632 of them." The chamber fell completely silent. Even the constant hum of the life support system seemed muted, as the implications of those words sank in. Commander Jacktor's voice betrayed the first hint of uncertainty. "Impossible. Our communication systems use quantum encryption with rotating frequency modulation. No outside force has the capability to access our secure channels." "Oh, I am sorry about that," Dr. Park replied, and she genuinely sounded apologetic. "I should have introduced myself properly. Dr. Lisa Park, Quantum Communications Research Division, Earth Defense Corps. I have been studying your fleet's communication protocols for approximately 6 minutes now. Fascinating approach to quantum entanglement, though I notice some inefficiencies that we could help you improve." On the recording, alarm klaxons began sounding throughout the enforcement fleet as every ship simultaneously reported security breaches in their communication systems. The council watched in growing horror as their most classified protocols were being casually discussed by a human, civilian who had apparently learned their entire system in less time than it took to order lunch. "I hope you do not mind," Dr. Park continued in the same friendly tone, "but I have taken the liberty of accessing your fleet's operational database. I need to inform you that Earth has been monitoring Council space for considerably longer than your records indicate. We are aware of your current force deployments, your strategic reserves, and your contingency planning." Commander Jacktor's massive frame was visible on his command bridge, his multiple eyes widening as classified information began displaying on screens throughout his ship. Information that should have been impossible for any outsider to access. "We know about the Second Fleet currently massing in the Altair system," Dr. Park continued helpfully. "We are also aware of the Third Fleet's patrol route through the Vega Corridor, and the emergency protocols that would bring both forces to Earth if your mission encounters unexpected resistance." The recording showed Commander Jacktor frantically gesturing to his communication officers, who were working desperately to regain control of their own systems. Everything they tried failed as Dr. Park continued her casual violation of every security protocol the Council had ever developed. "Most importantly," Dr. Park said, her voice taking on a slightly more serious tone, "we know about Operation Cleanslate, the plan to sterilize Earth completely if human technology proves too dangerous to allow continued existence." The council chamber erupted in shocked voices. Operation Cleanslate was classified at the highest levels, known only to the inner circle of military leadership. The fact that humans were aware of it meant their intelligence capabilities were far beyond anything the council had imagined. Commander Jacktor's voice was barely controlled as he responded. "What do you want?" "To show you something," Dr. Park replied simply. "To demonstrate why the Council's prohibition on human expansion might need some revision. But first, I need to address a more immediate concern." Every screen in the enforcement fleet suddenly displayed the same image, a detailed schematic of the fleet's own ships, complete with technical specifications that were classified above Commander Jacktor's security clearance. "Your quantum cascade torpedoes," Dr. Park observed in the tone of someone pointing out a minor flaw in a friend's homework, "have a 0.03% chance of cascade failure that would destroy your entire fleet. The probability increases exponentially if the weapons are fired in close formation, which is your current tactical arrangement." The recording showed Commander Jacktor staring at detailed analyses of his own weapons systems, information that his own engineers had never been allowed to see. "Your ship's power core has a harmonic resonance issue that could cause containment failure if subjected to specific frequency patterns," Dr. Park continued. "The patterns, incidentally, that your own engines produce when operating at maximum military power for more than 18 minutes. Consecutively, Commander Jacktor was now frantically reviewing system displays that showed exactly what Dr. Park was describing. Every flaw she mentioned was real, documented, and potentially catastrophic. Finally, Dr. Park said gently, your fleet's primary communication hub has a backdoor that we have been monitoring for approximately 8 years. We know about every operation you have conducted, every target you have engaged, and every report you have filed with Council headquarters. The recording showed the moment when Commander Jacktor realized that his entire career, every classified mission, every strategic decision, had been observed by the very species he was supposed to be containing. Dr. Park, he said slowly, what assurance do we have that you will not use this information against the Council? Commander, she replied with genuine warmth, we are not interested in harming anyone. We simply want to open a dialogue about humanity's place in the galaxy. But that conversation cannot happen while Council fleets are pointing weapons at civilian research vessels. The recording ended abruptly, with the enforcement fleet engaging their hyperspace drives and jumping away from the Sol system at maximum emergency speed. Elena turned back to face the Council, noting how many of the delegates were now whispering frantically among themselves. Commander Jacktor filed a complete mission report stating that no human vessels were detected in the target area and that the patrol was completed without incident. His crew has no memory of this encounter. She paused to let that information settle. Would you like to see what happened when you sent the second fleet? Overlord Vash's claws were now fully extended, scraping against his throne. You claim to have eliminated the memories of an entire fleet. Memory alteration is considered a war crime under 17 separate galactic treaties. Elena's expression remained pleasantly diplomatic. I completely agree, Overlord. Which is why we did not alter anyone's memories. The explanation for their lack of recollection is considerably more interesting than simple mental manipulation. She gestured toward the viewing screen, which was already loading the next recording. Admiral Korvax of the Second Fleet was specifically chosen for his reputation for thorough problem-solving. His approach to the human situation was, shall we say, more direct than Commander Jacktor's. The second recording began with Admiral Korvax reviewing his mission parameters in the war room of his flagship. Unlike Fleet Commander Jacktor, Korvax had been briefed on the First Fleet's mysterious disappearance and the complete communication blackout that had followed. His orders were correspondingly more severe. Elena watched the Council members as they observed their own admiral preparing for what was clearly intended to be a final solution to the human problem. The Second Fleet consisted of 87 vessels, she narrated, including 3 dreadnoughts and your newest prototype, the World Ender-class planetary bombardment platform. Admiral Korvax was selected specifically because of his record of efficient problem resolution in situations where diplomacy had failed. On screen, the massive fleet emerged from hyperspace at the very edge of the Sol system. Their formation was different from the First Fleet, designed not for patrol but for overwhelming assault. The ships moved with the deadly precision of a force that had been ordered to leave nothing alive. Earth Defense Command to Admiral Korvax, came a young male voice over the communication system. This is Captain Jake Reynolds, Earth Defense Corps. I am transmitting from Luna Base. Welcome to our solar system. The casual tone of the greeting seemed to catch Admiral Korvax off guard. His response was immediate and decisive. Human vessel, this is Admiral Korvax of the Second Council Fleet. You will surrender immediately and prepare for interrogation, or you will face complete annihilation. You have 60 seconds to comply with this order. Actually, Admiral, Jake replied with what sounded like genuine enthusiasm. I was hoping we could discuss that timeline. You see, we have been tracking your approach for the last 3 days. Impressive formation, by the way. Very intimidating. Our tactical analysis suggests you could sterilize approximately 40% of Earth's surface before we could mount any meaningful defense. 3 days? Admiral Korvax's voice carried obvious confusion. Impossible. We emerged from hyperspace 17 minutes ago. Our approach vector was classified at the highest levels and communicated only through quantum-secured channels. Well, that brings up an interesting point about the nature of space-time and information propagation, Jake replied cheerfully. You actually emerged from hyperspace exactly where we calculated you would, at precisely the time our models predicted. Dr. Martinez here has been tracking your hyperspace wake for the past 2 weeks. A new voice joined the transmission, belonging to Dr. Sofia Martinez, who spoke with the casual confidence of someone discussing routine maintenance schedules. Admiral, your fleet is currently surrounded by what you would classify as approximately 200 human vessels. They have been in position for the past 6 hours waiting for your arrival. Admiral Korvax immediately ordered full sensor sweeps of the surrounding space. The results showed nothing but empty void in all directions. No energy signatures, no mass concentrations, no indication of any vessels whatsoever. Impossible, the Admiral stated flatly. Our sensors detect no human vessels. No energy signatures of any kind. Space appears completely empty except for our own fleet. That is because your sensors are designed to detect what you expect to find, Dr. Martinez explained patiently. Massive energy signatures, metallic hull compositions, conventional propulsion systems, electromagnetic radiation patterns. You are looking for ships built according to Council specifications and operating within normal space-time parameters. On the tactical display visible in the recording, pinpricks of light began appearing around the Council fleet. First a dozen, then 50, then hundreds. Each signature appeared exactly where human voices had claimed they would be. Phase shift technology. Dr. Martinez continued in the same conversational tone. We borrowed the basic concept from your own theoretical research. The papers published by the Catherian Science Institute about 15 years ago were particularly helpful. Dr. Veltar's work on dimensional mechanics provided an excellent foundation. In the council chamber, Dr. Veltar's crystalline form was chiming frantically, the harmonics indicating extreme distress. We improved on the theoretical framework. Of course, Dr. Martinez added almost apologetically, made it practical for military applications. Your fleet is currently surrounded by vessels that exist partially outside normal space-time. They can engage targets in normal space, but conventional weapons cannot effectively lock onto them. The recording showed Admiral Korvax staring at sensor displays that now showed his fleet completely surrounded by contacts that had not existed moments before. His tactical officers were running continuous sensor sweeps, confirming that the human ships were there but somehow not entirely there at the same time. What do you want? Admiral Korvax asked, his voice carefully controlled. To show you something, Jake replied. To demonstrate why the current approach to human containment might require some reconsideration. But first, we need to address a few technical issues with your fleet configuration. Every ship in Admiral Korvax's fleet simultaneously received detailed technical specifications for their own weapon systems, not just basic operational parameters, but complete design schematics including classified flaws and failure modes that had been known only to their original designers. The quantum cascade torpedoes in your dreadnoughts, Dr. Martinez observed, have a 0.03% chance of cascade failure that would take out your entire fleet. This probability was deemed acceptable because the weapons were never intended to be fired in close formation against targets capable of real-time tactical adaptation, Admiral. Korvax was now looking at displays showing information about his own ships that he had never been authorized to see, technical analyses that revealed weaknesses in systems he had trusted with his life and the lives of his crews. The World Ender platform's primary weapon, Dr. Martinez continued, has never been tested against a target capable of adapting its defensive systems in real time during bombardment. The weapon requires 17 minutes to reach full charge, during which time it produces a very specific energy signature that can be tracked and anticipated. The recording showed the World Ender's crew frantically checking their systems as humans casually described. Technical specifications that should have been absolutely secret. Most importantly, Dr. Martinez said, her tone becoming slightly more serious. Your fleet's communication hub has been compromised for approximately 8 years. We have been monitoring your tactical developments, strategic planning, and operational capabilities through backdoors that were installed during the original system manufacturing. Admiral Korvax's face showed the exact moment when he realized that everything his fleet had done, every mission they had conducted, every tactical innovation they had developed, had been observed and analyzed by the very species they were supposed to be controlling. Dr. Martinez, he said slowly, what assurance can you give that this information will not be used against Council interests? Admiral, she replied with obvious sincerity, we have no interest in harming Council forces or destabilizing galactic peace. We simply believe that humanity's current status needs to be reconsidered based on more complete information about our actual capabilities. The recording showed Admiral Korvax consulting with his senior officers, their expressions showing the strain of trying to process what they had learned. Finally, he returned to the communication channel, What do you propose? That you return to Council space and recommend immediate diplomatic engagement with Earth, Jake replied. Your mission report should include a recommendation that humans be classified as a Class A diplomatic priority, requiring full Council attention. And if we refuse? Then you will discover exactly how many human vessels are currently surrounding your fleet, and what our phase shift technology is actually capable of in combat situations, Dr. Martinez said matter-of-factly. Though I should mention that such a demonstration would be visible from Council space and might raise uncomfortable questions about your fleet's operational effectiveness. The recording ended with Admiral Korvax ordering his fleet to withdraw immediately to hyperspace. Elena turned back to the Council. Admiral Korvax filed a complete mission report stating that the patrol encountered no human vessels and that all systems operated normally throughout the mission. His crew has no memory of any unusual encounters. She gestured toward the viewing screen, which was already loading the final recording. The Third Fleet was commanded by War Marshal Thane, who you correctly identified as the finest military mind in Council space. His approach to the human situation was considerably more sophisticated than his predecessors. Overlord Vash's voice carried a dangerous edge. You claim to have defeated our three most capable fleet commanders without firing a shot, without causing any casualties, and without leaving any evidence of engagement. This level of capability suggests that humanity represents a threat far beyond what we initially assessed. Elena nodded thoughtfully. That assessment would be accurate, Overlord, though I think you will find that the nature of the threat is quite different from what you might expect. The third recording opened with War Marshal Thane studying detailed intelligence reports about the previous two fleet encounters. His analysis was methodical, thorough, and demonstrated exactly why he was considered the greatest military strategist in Council space. Unlike his predecessors, Thane understood that he was dealing with an opponent whose capabilities were completely unknown. War Marshal Thane ended the Rim Wars through pure tactical brilliance, Elena explained as they watched the Marshal reviewing classified documents. His strategic planning prevented 3 separate galactic conflicts before they could begin. When the Council needed someone to handle what you had decided was humanity's final warning, you chose the one commander who had never failed in 40 years of service. On screen, Thane was briefing his senior staff about the mission ahead. His approach was comprehensive and terrifying in its competence. He had correctly identified that humans possessed advanced surveillance capabilities, sophisticated electronic warfare systems, and some form of dimensional manipulation technology. His response was to assume that all conventional tactical approaches had been compromised. Marshal Thane's fleet consisted of 47 vessels, Elena continued, each one capable of independently sterilizing an entire planet. They approached the Sol system using tactics that had never failed him in 4 decades of warfare. No predetermined formation, no standard communication protocols, no predictable attack patterns. The recording showed Thane's ships jumping into the system at random intervals from completely different vectors. Each vessel operated independently, making coordination-based attacks impossible. Communication was limited to quantum burst transmissions that lasted mere nanoseconds and used rotating encryption keys that changed faster than most computers could track. His orders were simple and direct, Elena noted with something that might have been admiration. Destroy Earth immediately upon emergence from hyperspace. No warnings, no negotiations, no survivors. The Council had decided that humanity represented an unacceptable risk to galactic stability. War Marshal Thane's flagship, the Inevitable, emerged from hyperspace within weapons range of what appeared to be Earth. The planet looked completely defenseless, with no orbital platforms, no defensive satellites, and no ships visible in the immediate vicinity. Thane's tactical displays showed a perfect target for immediate planetary bombardment. World killer to all units, came Thane's voice, calm and professional. Target acquired. Beginning planetary sterilization sequence. All ships fire on my command. War Marshal Thane interrupted a calm female voice. This is Admiral Rebecca Stone, Earth Defense Corps. Before you commence firing, I would like you to run a deep gravitational analysis of your target. Thane's response was immediate and decisive. Impossible. This communication is being transmitted on a closed quantum channel with rotating encryption that changes every nanosecond. No outside force can access this frequency. Marshal, please run the scan. Admiral Stone said simply. The recording showed Thane hesitating for exactly 3 seconds before ordering the requested analysis. His tactical officer conducted a deep planetary scan using every sensor array at their disposal. The results appeared on Thane's personal display, and even through the recording, the Council could see his reaction. "This is not Earth," he said slowly, his voice carrying the weight of someone whose fundamental understanding of reality had just shifted. "No," Admiral Stone confirmed gently. "This is a holographic projection approximately 4,000 kilometers in diameter, positioned exactly where Earth should be according to your navigational data. The actual Earth is currently 63 light-years from your position." The scan results displayed exactly what she had claimed. The planet was an elaborate hologram, sophisticated enough to fool military-grade sensors from weapons range, complete with atmospheric readings, electromagnetic signatures, and gravitational effects that matched Earth's exact specifications. "Impossible," Thane repeated, but his voice now carried uncertainty instead of confidence. "Marshal, your entire fleet is currently located inside what humans call a pocket dimension," Admiral Stone continued in the same patient tone. "An artificially created space-time bubble approximately 4 million cubic kilometers in volume. We positioned it along your projected approach vector about 6 weeks ago." Thane immediately ordered comprehensive sensor sweeps of the surrounding space. The results showed massive gravitational anomalies that had not been detectable moments before, energy signatures that defied explanation, and spatial distortions that suggested they were not in normal space at all. "Your ships are not in the Sol system," Admiral Stone explained. "You are currently inside a controlled environment that we can manipulate according to our requirements. Your weapons will function normally, your ships can maneuver freely, and your crews are perfectly safe. However, you cannot leave this space without our permission." "Prove it," Thane challenged, his tactical mind immediately testing the boundaries of what appeared to be an impossible situation. Every ship in his fleet immediately received detailed technical schematics of the pocket dimension they were trapped in, complete engineering specifications, mathematical proofs that required advanced theoretical physics to understand, and operational parameters that should not have existed according to current scientific knowledge. The Council chamber fell completely silent as they watched their greatest military commander studying documents that described technology beyond anything they had ever imagined. "Marshal," Admiral Stone said gently, "would you like to know how we moved your planet?" The question hung in the air like a physical presence. Thane stared at his displays for a full minute before responding. "You did not move Earth, you moved us." "Correct," Admiral Stone confirmed. "Specifically, we created a localized space-time distortion that intersected your hyperspace emergence coordinates and drew your fleet into a controlled dimensional pocket. From your perspective, you emerged normally and found Earth exactly where expected. From our perspective, you entered a carefully prepared environment where we could demonstrate certain capabilities without risking harm to either your crews or Earth's population." Thane was now studying readouts that showed his fleet trapped inside a space that existed parallel to normal reality. His engineering officers were confirming that everything Admiral Stone had described was accurate, despite being theoretically impossible. "How long have you been able to manipulate space-time on this scale?" he asked. "The basic technology has existed for approximately 20 years, Admiral Stone replied. "Large-scale military applications became practical about 5 years ago. This particular pocket dimension was constructed specifically for this encounter. After we detected your fleet's assembly and identified your most likely approach vectors." "You have been tracking our movements, Marshal?" "We have been monitoring all Council military activities for the past 15 years. Your tactical innovations, strategic planning, and operational capabilities are all well known to us. We chose to demonstrate our defensive capabilities to you specifically, because we knew you would understand the implications better than most." War Marshal Thane sat silently for several minutes, processing what he had learned. Finally, he spoke directly to Admiral Stone. "What are your terms? Return to Council space and recommend immediate cessation of all hostile actions against Earth. Advise the Council that humanity should be classified as a Class X strategic entity, requiring maximum diplomatic engagement. Suggest that the current prohibition may need comprehensive revision, and if the Council rejects this recommendation,
Then the next encounter will involve actual combat capabilities rather than defensive demonstrations, Admiral Stone said matter-of-factly.
Though I should mention that such an encounter would likely be observed by every major power in the galaxy and might raise questions about the Council's ability to maintain galactic stability. The recording ended with Marshal Thane requesting immediate conference with Earth's Senior Command Authority. Elena turned back to the Council. War Marshal Thane returned to Council space and filed a report recommending immediate diplomatic engagement with humanity. He classified Earth as requiring maximum strategic attention and suggested that current containment protocols were inadequate for the situation. She paused, watching the Council members process this information. He never filed that report. Overlord Vash leaned forward in his throne. Impossible. Marshal Thane reports directly to this Council through secured channels that cannot be intercepted or modified. His communications are verified through multiple redundant systems. Elena smiled, and for the first time the expression held genuine warmth instead of diplomatic politeness. Overlord, every single report from those 3 fleets reached you exactly as their commanders intended to send them. No communications were intercepted, no data was altered, and no memories were modified. She gestured to the viewing screen one final time. However, none of those encounters actually happened. The viewing screen displayed Earth as seen from space, a blue-green marble rotating peacefully in the void. The timestamp showed real-time feeds from Council surveillance satellites that had been monitoring the Sol system continuously for 47 years. No fleets, no battles, no encounters of any kind. Impossible, whispered Councillor Nethys, her serpentine form coiling with agitation. We watched those fleets depart. We received their status reports. We monitored their return to base. Elena walked slowly around her containment field, somehow making the energy barrier seem less like a prison and more like a stage for her performance. Counselor, every single report from those 3 fleets reached you exactly as their commanders intended to send them. No communications were intercepted, no data was altered, and no memories were modified. She gestured toward the peaceful image of Earth spinning silently in space. What I showed you were not recordings of actual events. They were simulations, theoretical encounters generated by human, artificial intelligence based on detailed psychological profiles of your commanders and comprehensive tactical analysis of your fleets. The Council chamber erupted in confused voices from 700 different species. Elena waited patiently for the chaos to subside, her calm presence somehow more unnerving than the panic surrounding her. We have been monitoring Council space for considerably longer than 47 years, she continued once relative quiet returned. We know your tactical doctrines, your technological capabilities, your command structures, and your strategic thinking patterns. Those simulations represent exactly what would happen if you sent those fleets against Earth. Overlord Vash's massive claws extended fully, scraping against his throne with the sound of metal on stone. You claim to have psychological profiles of our military commanders. You claim to have detailed intelligence about our fleets. You claim to have surveillance capabilities we cannot detect. Yet you have never left your solar system. No, Elena agreed with a slight nod. Humans have never left the solar system, she paused, letting the distinction settle into the minds of the most powerful beings in known space. Earth, however, has been expanding for quite some time. The viewing screen shifted to display a comprehensive star map of Council space. Thousands of systems glowed in soft blue light, representing the full extent of galactic civilization. It was a view that normally filled Council members with pride at the scope of their domain. Red dots began appearing on the map, first a few dozen scattered across the outer rim, then hundreds throughout the middle territories, then thousands penetrating deep into Council core space. Each dot pulsed gently, indicating active status. When you prohibited humans from leaving the solar system, Elena explained, you made a fundamental assumption about the nature of space travel and the limitations of our confinement. You assumed we would remain trapped on our world within our system, cut off from galactic civilization. The red dots now outnumbered the blue systems by a significant margin. They were positioned near every major Council fleet base, every strategic resource concentration, every important world in known space. You never prohibited us from bringing the galaxy to us. Counselor Reth of the Technical Collective was making rapid clicking sounds, his translator working overtime to process the implications. These signatures cannot represent actual installations. Our sensors would have detected any such massive construction projects. Dimensional anchor points, Elena explained patiently. Artificially created spaces that exist parallel to normal reality, connected to the Sol system through controlled space-time manipulation. Technically, they do not exist in your space, so they do not violate your prohibition against human expansion. The star map now showed a comprehensive network of red dots forming geometric patterns throughout Council space. Each position had been carefully chosen for maximum intelligence gathering and strategic advantage. We have been studying you for 47 years without ever leaving home, Elena continued. We understand your capabilities because we have observed every weapon you have developed. We know your tactical thinking because we have monitored every major engagement you have fought. We have psychological profiles of your commanders because we have been watching their careers develop for decades. Dr. Veltar of the Catherian delegation was chiming frantically, the crystalline being's distress harmonics filling the chamber. Through her translator, her voice carried panic. This level of surveillance represents a complete violation of sovereign space. The intelligence-gathering capabilities described here constitute an act of war, do they? Elena asked mildly, turning to face the distressed scientist. We never entered your space. We never interfered with your operations. We never made contact with your people. We simply observed and learned, and prepared for the day when you would inevitably decide that containment was insufficient. The chamber fell silent as the full implications of her words settled over the assembled delegates. 47 years of assumed superiority, of confident control over a primitive species, had been built on completely false assumptions. The simulations I showed you represent conservative estimates of our current defensive capabilities, Elena continued. The reality is considerably more comprehensive than those demonstrations suggested. She gestured to herself, standing calmly in a containment field designed to hold entire battle fleets. For instance, this containment field operates on principles of localized space-time manipulation to create an inescapable energy barrier. It should be absolutely impossible to breach from the inside using any known technology. Elena took a step forward. The containment field shimmered but offered no resistance to her movement. Another step. The field flickered and died completely. However, we have had 47 years to study Council technology from the dimensional spaces we established throughout your territory. There is not a single system you have built that we have not quietly analyzed and improved upon. Elena walked calmly to the center of the chamber, no longer confined, no longer contained. Her simple black diplomatic uniform seemed to absorb the strange light that filled the space, making her appear as a dark void in the rainbow of alien forms surrounding her. I did not come here as a prisoner facing judgment, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the massive chamber. I came here as Earth's first official ambassador to the Galactic Council. She reached into her jacket and withdrew a small device that immediately triggered every security system in the building. Alarms sounded, defensive barriers activated, and weapon systems that had been hidden throughout the chamber emerged from concealment. Elena set the device gently on the central podium, completely ignoring the weapons now pointed at her from dozens of different directions. This contains humanity's formal application for Council membership, she announced, along with our diplomatic credentials, comprehensive trade proposals, and defensive alliance offerings tailored specifically to the needs of each member species. The device began projecting holographic documents in 700 different languages simultaneously. Each projection was customized for its intended audience, addressing specific concerns and offering solutions to problems that many species had not realized humans even knew about. We have been patient, Elena continued, her voice somehow remaining conversational despite the chaos surrounding her. We have respected your prohibition to the letter. We have remained within our solar system exactly as you demanded, but we have also been preparing for the conversation that needs to happen next. The holographic documents continued to expand, filling the chamber with floating displays of trade agreements, technology sharing proposals, and mutual defense treaties. Each document was perfectly crafted, demonstrating an understanding of galactic politics that should have taken centuries to develop. The question before this council is no longer whether humans should be allowed to leave our solar system, Elena said, her smile returning as she looked up at the 700 alien faces staring down at her. The question is whether you are ready for us to start coming back. She gestured to the dimensional anchor point still glowing on the star map. Those observation posts can become trade stations, research facilities, or diplomatic embassies. The choice is entirely yours. We can continue to watch from the shadows while you pretend we do not exist. Or we can begin the process of true integration into galactic civilization. Overlord Vash finally found his voice. And if we refuse? If we maintain the prohibition and attempt to enforce it through military action? Elena's expression became genuinely sympathetic. Overlord, you have seen what we can accomplish from within the confines of a single star system. Imagine what we might achieve if we were actually trying to cause problems. She walked back toward the chamber's main entrance. Her business apparently concluded. The applications will remain available for your review. We suggest beginning with the trade proposals, as they offer immediate benefits to all member species. The Defensive Alliance documents might be particularly interesting to species currently dealing with rim piracy or border disputes. Elena paused at the threshold of the massive doors. We will be waiting for your response. We have, after all, become quite good at patience.